Southbourne too. So you've got terroir tapas, which is just an amazing low carbon footprint, very, very sustainable restaurant. It's not only amazing for that reason, but it's also got amazing food. They have a wholly English wine list, which we'll be showing one of the wines that they sell over there. First, mostly I'm just going to remind myself to kind of slow down and take my time, because it's the first time I've been in front of a crowd like this in a while, and it's definitely the first time I've been doing this wine and music pairing thing, which I'm super excited about. It's something that people haven't really necessarily thought of, but I think once I get into it, you'll understand why it makes sense. So I'm Jay Corey Evans, and I get asked a lot what my accent or where my accent comes from. So I'll start with that, just to get rid of all the myths and stuff. My dad was in the Navy in America, so I'm an American guy, and I was born just outside of Seattle. And I went to Hawaii, then I went to Southern California, Northern California. I lived in Maryland for most of my formative youth, high school, and a lot. Then I went down to South Carolina for a few years to study marine biology and psychology. But really, it was the 2-to-1 girl-to-guy ratio at the school that drew me there. And then after, it was kind of a choice between my last year of school or going down to sound engineering school. So I opted to be around music and try to get myself in the technical aspect of the musical world. And then was in Florida for a year doing that, so I got a fancy degree in recording arts. Then I went over to San Francisco where I played rock and roll music, and as a musician you are a waiter most of the time anyways. So I did that for a bunch of years, most of my 20s. I was running sound out there and doing that whole thing, but very much connected to music in a lot of ways. I didn't actually learn about wine very much out there. I think I had just discovered Malbec when I left, and that's one of the things. Oh, look, a delicious red wine, great. So when I moved over here after meeting my wife, 11 years ago now. So I moved over here, we moved to London, started managing restaurants, and really getting into that side of things over here. And I found a lot of commonality between the music, the way that music is made, the way it's talked about, the way it's thought about, the way we appreciate it. And then I started learning about wine. So I was fortunate enough to work with people who put me through what's called the WSET, and that's the Wine and Spirits Education Trust. So I worked through my levels of that, and I got a fancy degree in wine. So I have wine and sound, and these are kind of sensation and perception elements to the world that I just find fascinating, because it is in this moment is all we have, right? So it's this very hippy-dippy kind of thing, but it's true. And I think if you put wine and music into a place where it is this moment, and all you're tasting is that mouthful, and then it's gone, and then it never exists again in the exact same way ever again, and it never has existed for anybody else in the same way that you will appreciate that drop of wine, in the same way that all of the breaths and all the mistakes I will probably make while I'm playing today will be part of this performance, and that this is a place in time that only exists now. And I think in these troubled times, it's really important to kind of focus on what we got and the fun stuff, Like if you can taste something that blows your hair back, that's awesome, why not? And then if you can hear something that you really appreciate in that moment, it's a memory, it's an experience, and if we can get those in even a small way, I think it's a really powerful and important thing. So that's kind of what I've come to the culmination of in here with my sound engineering degree and playing all this music. So what I'm going to be doing today is playing a few songs. You definitely haven't heard 2 of them. Well, almost everybody hasn't heard 2 of them. Rose, you've heard all of them. My daughter, Rose. So if you haven't heard any of the songs I'm going to play, there's a couple of originals, and I'll start off with one that you probably have heard, but maybe you've heard me play it, so it's going to be all right. Let's talk about the wine for a second. Why not? Let's get started on something so you have something in your mouth, so to speak. So this is a Col Fondo from Atlanta. Okay, so this is an English wine. It's a Col Fondo, so that translates to the Italian with the bottom. Okay, and so when you have the bottles of this, you'll have a bunch of sediment at the bottom. So it's unfiltered. When you're making a sparkling wine, you start off by making a wine, surprise, and then you add a little bit of yeast and sugar, so it does a fermentation in the bottle if you're doing the traditional method, right? So what that means is that you get a little bit more of that kind of, well, what ends up being yeasty flavors that ultimately character. But the yeasty flavors give you that kind of brioche and a little bit more of a pastry kind of character. And that rounds it out, makes it way food friendly. So what they do with this, as opposed to getting rid of that yeast, like you would in a traditional method sparkling, they leave it in there. And it kind of just like adds a little bit of texture, and then when you open that bottle, that yeast will have spent maybe months more than it has in other bottles. So it is going to evolve, and it is going to change inside the bottle over time, and in a very short period of time. And the fact that this is a relatively local, well, not relatively, it's England. Pretty much everything's local here, right? It's a local wine. We are here now drinking beautiful English wine. It's cloudy, of course it is. It should be, right? We've got the wind coming off the water. We've got buzz going on around there. I mean, we are now in a place that we can really experience this to the best of our abilities. It's in plastic cups. You're probably not going to drink this in plastic cups most of the time, but now we're doing it, so that's what this is. So yeah, that's kind of my basic philosophy on all of that. I do want to say, I was in a rock and roll band in San Francisco for a number of years. We were called the Attack Plan, and it was really just balls to the wall. Like we called it neoclassic American rock and roll was our genre. So early Aerosmith, that kind of thing. My bass player and my guitarist were both 6'4". We called them the Twin Towers because it's not really PC, but it was funny. And then I was the frontman, so I got to wail out. My favorite place in the whole world was on stage, spitting over a mic. So thank you for seeing me in this kind of place. It really means a lot. So, actually, yes, please. Oh, yes. I really want to encourage you to hoot and holler. Like, there should be a little bit of value in here. Like if you want to dance. This is a freeing kind of moment. So, let's see how this sounds. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. We got, the guy in the back who's running the sound. Oh, I think you can hear that. Does that sound all right? Yeah? This was a guitar that was given to me for my high school graduation by my father, and I have constantly been trying to earn it. It's way better than I knew how to play at the time, for sure, and probably better than me now. It's a Martin. So Martins are actually really interesting guitars, very classic in America. All of the sound from an acoustic guitar pretty much comes from this. This is the soundboard right on the top. So we've got, this is the vibration that fills the rest of the box here with noise, and then it comes out and hopefully it sounds pretty. But what they do with this is opposed to what they do with cheaper guitars or Taylors, for example, is they let the shellac dry naturally. So it's a very long process to make sure that this vibrates in the right kind of way. And what that ends up doing is that this will sound better with age, right? So what I'm going to use, I'm going to start the metaphor now. Okay. So what I've got here is my grape. Okay. This is my grape. That's not how it sounds. But this is my grape. Can't really hear it, but it's kind of sweet. It's nice. It's just relaxed. What I'm going to be doing by running it through the amp over here is I'm going to be showing how wine is made in kind of a broad strokes kind of term, just so people can kind of get their head around it. But basically what you're looking for is amplification and a conversion from acoustic to electric. So that would be in wine sense, sugar to booze. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We want to get that kind of beautiful sweet tone. Now I've run this through this is another one of my dad's offerings to me. So that's a 1964 Princeton reverb. It's all with the original soldering. It's so this is a piece of the past that I'm playing through right here. It's been touted as one of the best studio amplifiers in the world, and I just love it. Like really love it. If anything happened to that, I don't know what I'm doing. But you can do a lot of things with this. So most importantly, you can tune. So I always say, it's really important. This show don't cost any more if it's in tune. Right, Rose? Yeah. She has to hear me a lot. Ever so sorry. How embarrassing. Okay, cool. So Cole Fonda from England. I'm going to play this song by an Englishman. But I think this song has a lot to do with what's going on in the world right now, and it represents what I'm trying to present here as best as I possibly can. First off, though, is everybody having a great time? Yeah! That's more the attitude. Get more of that. As I walk through this wicked world, searching for light in the darkness, insanity, I ask myself, is all hope lost? Is there only pain and hatred and misery? And each time I feel like this inside, there's one thing I want to know. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Along with you, really. I walk on troubled times, searching for light in the darkness sometimes. So where are the strong? Who are the trusted? And each time I feel it slipping away, just makes me wanna cry. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Each time I feel it slipping away, there's one thing I wanna know. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Thank you. So wine is cool too, right? Right, so I'm not going to force you all to drink this too fast, because that's not really what we do, you know? It's kind of a very cool thing that we can do here, where we can just relax into the afternoon and not have to get blood, you know? Like, it's a wonderful thing. We'll save that for later, you know? Everyone's got to leave at some point today. Or you don't, you can go over to Bodega after this. And, you know, I'm going to be over there just hanging out for a bit, so just want to point that out, you know? Right, Jim? Yeah, good. Oh, it's right over there. Yeah, that way. 2-minute walk. Gosh, I could just lead the whole crowd over there. Fun. All right. Let's get back to the bones of this. I've actually written something down for once, which is not usually what I do. Another way we can talk about wine in this metaphor that we're doing is, so if this is the grape, then you've got some effects that go through it. You're running it through cables, and that's kind of the winemaking process, and then it's coming out to where you hear it in there. But there's something called gain staging, which is basically different levels of volume going into different things. So as you get those up, you get a little bit more grit or compression or fuzz. So you get a little bit more of that electric sound, right? So I'm amping it up here. So what that basically ends up being is more alcohol in what you're tasting. So the bigger that is, the other structural components can be bigger as well. So you can have more tonal quality in the wine, you can have more acidity, alcohol, tannin, you can have more sugar if that's the kind of wine that you're drinking. So you've got these structural components that are acid and alcohol pretty much in white wine. And that gives you roundness and weight as the alcohol, and then the brightness and freshness is the acidity. Okay, so you can equate those in a very real sense to high tones and low tones if you want to put into the flavors that you're tasting. Has everyone had their hits of acid? Because this is going to make a lot more sense. But it's fine, it'll work out. So when you get these structural components, just like music, if you have a 4-piece band, you got your bass and your drums, right? That's your rhythm section. That's your alcohol in the city. That's going to be in every wine, unless it's a non-alcoholic wine, but we can talk about that later. In every wine, you're going to have alcohol in the city. You're going to have that thump. And if those two aren't in balance with everything else going on, then it's not really going to sound right. So your rhythm section is really important. So in this wine, it's a relatively low alcohol. We'll move up to some that are a little bit more. I didn't want to kill you today, so it's a pretty reserved. I think the highest one is 13, which is reasonable these days. Right. So let's talk about the next wine. Here's one I prepared earlier. So this is a white Rioja. So Rioja is definitely famous for its reds, mainly Tempranillo, Grapciano, and Mezzuelo are the grapes in Rioja. There's aging that has to happen for it legally to be called Rioja, whether it's Crianza, which is the youngest, well, Bourbon is the youngest, and Crianza has to be aged for a certain amount of time, then Reserva, then Grand Reserva, which has to be aged for like 3 years. I always forget this, so I'm just going to say 3 years and 2 years. So 3 years in the barrel, 2 years in the bottle before it can be released. And a lot of houses do extended barrel aging just because it integrates flavors better and it kind of makes it a little bit more rounded and finer wine. Is the idea. More flavors that you can kind of up, and they're different kind of characters when they're developed rather than when they're young. So this is a white Rioja. So the grape in here is Viura. And this was actually commissioned by Felix Jimenez, which is a Michelin-star chef down in Spain. So it was supposed to go along with his sushi. So he had a sushi restaurant that he wanted to show this wine at, or he wanted something that wouldn't upset the delicate nature of sushi. But it's still a Rioja, so it does have some barrel aging. It's just really subtle. And everybody says they don't like Chardonnay. Chardonnay has done nothing wrong to you. Chardonnay still loves you. It's the oak that the Americans and the Australians put in there. Those bastards. That ruined everybody's kind of concept or preconceived notions about it. So most Chardonnay, well, I won't say most, but some Chardonnay is really just not chewy at all. It's absolutely beautiful and bright, and it's arguably some of the best wine in the world once you get to a certain stage. But I can't afford that, so why would I even talk about it? So the oak in here is going to give you these little hints of vanilla and coconut because it's American oak that they use, and that gives it a little bit of a sweet spice to offset the grassiness and the freshness of the Viura, which without the oak would probably be a little bit too astringent. It would be too sharp. So, how do we all feel about that? The wine, it's good, perfect. There are only two kinds of wine in the world. There's the kind you like and the kind you don't. All right, and that's what I want to focus on as well, because it's not about pretense. It's not about ooh, this bottle is 400 pounds. Let's chug a look. But it is about what you're tasting, and it is about this. Again, this is that moment where you're tasting something out in the middle of a field, basically intense, and there's all sorts of farmy characters that are just wafting through and keeps us, honest and earthy. Yeah. Feels very hippie and granola. I like it. I'm gonna take my shoes off in a minute. Okay. So this is a very different kind of character from the first one. Where the first one, sorry, I didn't really talk about the taste of that, but it was a very green apple kind of bruised character, but in a lovely basket of like wool. It was nice and soft and comforting in that. So that had that brightness to it with the spritz, which you need high acidity for. And this is a much more juice-driven. It's almost got that pineapple coconut kind of character. I don't want to say it tastes like wine chocolate because that's not going to sell it, but like that kind of thing. It feels very, very tropical and almost exotic. And the fact that this wine was built for sushi, which is a food from a very different part of the world, clearly, than Spain. And it's made by Spanish winemakers. There's two parts of the world that are connected here, and I thought that was important. So I'm going to play a song that I wrote over a decade ago. Now. But I'm going to give it a little bit of gain because that's more fun. Oh yeah. It's okay. Everybody's fine. Good. My girl's on the other side of the world, and everything inside me lets me know that I'm sure. Well, I see her sitting right over there. Ooh, it's just a ghost on my desk chair, yeah. And I take too much to ease the pain. Ooh, I drown myself in my irony. My girl's on the other side of the world, and everything inside lets me know I'm sure. Well, the nightmare's got her waking up in a panic. Ooh, look at her, I'm a helpless romantic, yeah. And let's touch my lips and I feel so fantastic. Ooh, when my heart beats elastic. My girl's on the other side of the world, and everything inside me lets me know that I am sure. Well, nightmares, they got her waking up in a panic. Look at her, I'm a helpless romantic, yeah. She gets up with that morning sun. Oh, night before, yeah, the night is yours. My girl. so that was about being separated from something, right? So these two things have come together, much like what brought me here. Being a romantic myself, like I said in the song, you just end up in places, You travel the world for love, and you chase the dreams and the passions that you can. Anyways, I really like that Real Hum. It is a little bit more of a serious wine than the first one in that, really you can just drink a whole lot of that first one, I think. Like, that was pretty easy drinking. Where this one, you don't have to have food with it, but I'd like some, I'd like something light and fresh and kind of easy eating, something, salad or steak, not steak probably, but fish dishes and things. All right, so, running through this, that'll be fine. Let's talk a little bit about the structure and timbre of music and wine. So, when I was going to school for mixing and mastering music back in, I guess I finished in 2004. I was in Florida. I got my first gig actually because I had some trouble with the law, and I was put into community service, and I met a guy who was a sound engineer in San Francisco that I didn't even know was there. Ended up with his car. A guy comes in buying some stuff for him because he was running theater sound. So that was my first gig right there because I remembered the guy's name and headed over there. And then I was the head sound engineer of Menopause the Musical. We did 7 shows a week for 2 years. So I think I've been through Menopause 250 times, and more than that probably. No, 700. That was what I ended up with. So that kind of stuff taught me a lot. One, you never ask a woman her age. 2, just with sound and kind of designing these a performance. It's not ever going to be exactly the same. There's never going to be something that kind of ties it all together, except for the script and the lines of the actors doing their job right. But there's always going to be problems that arise, and you just kind of have to roll with them and try to make it the best you can. Such as my guitar cutting out during that song. That was just fun. And I wasn't stressed at all. It was fun. But these kind of things happen, and it was always these little idiosyncrasies that made me appreciate live performance, and when I was doing it as well, it's these things. These things. That's great, Jim. I love that. It feels very official. I probably shouldn't have brought attention to it because it was really subtle until I did. Thanks, bud. Perfect. Only 10. Okay, so when you're at do you remember live music? This is kind of it, but you might not remember because it's been a while. But when you're in a spot in a crowd and you're hearing something that you haven't heard before from a band that's just playing their hearts out, and really just trying to emote all over you, that's kind of what you get out of that. But you're in that certain place, and nobody around you, nobody ever has, nobody ever will experience that sound, that show the way that you experience it. So this wine and music pairing thing, rather than going very specific, especially this first time, I'm looking more at, because this is a very unique opportunity for everybody to kind of sit down with a glass of wine and just listen to me talk at them for an hour. It's more about that sense of place, and wine does the same thing. And if you do them in concert, I'm not saying that wine should be the focus and should be only focused on that. After all, if you're in a party and you're wandering around and you've got the red or the white or the sparkling, that wine is perfect for what it is. It's ambiance. It creates a mood. Wine is entertainment, after all. It is, and that's not hoisted up onto too much of a pedestal. It's gone off grape juice. I believe that, but it's also the height of human culture in a lot of ways, because we've taken something that happens naturally. If a bunch of grapes fell into a bucket, it would eventually make wine. Is kind of the idea. It happens naturally. We control it and then manipulate it in a way that you can get such an array of flavors out of a single crop, which is absolutely it's absolutely fantastic, but it's also fascinating too. And I find that just amazing. In the same way that we manipulate vibrations, and that's what sound is, and that's what we are doing with instruments. And, we dance to it. It's part of everyday life. I'm not saying that wine needs to be part of everyday life, but the experience can be for this kind of thing. We're talking about a party, right? Okay, so you're at a party, you got the wine. It's ambiance. It just kind of creates a mood, right? You've got the background music that's going on. You don't have to hear every note of that. It's cool. You're having conversations. It's a different kind of event. But if you want to take every note out of that and you want to listen to something critically or really want to get into it, and it becomes a meditation for me. Then you put it on your hi-fi stereo system, you sit down, and you can hear every breath and every instrument in the orchestra if you want to do that. You don't have to do that. That's not how you appreciate music. It's totally up to you. So what's important about wine is that you enjoy it the way you want to at the time. There's so much elitism and pomp and circumstance around wine that I just don't think should be there. So if you ever come into Bodega, you'll be treated well to wine that's not stuffy at all. Bodega. It's right over on Wick Lane. Yeah, you'll see it because it's got beautiful flowers out front right now. Lots of greenery, and it's got cool people inside and cool wines. Just so I don't forget this because I'm really bad at it. I've done a really pro job at putting my tag up here. Your friendly neighborhood sommelier. That's what I go by on Instagram, and I've got a YouTube channel. I haven't done a lot of work on it recently, but there's some fun stuff on there. So I don't think you'll be disappointed if you go. If you want to just learn about some wines, it's a bit of fun. But yeah, it's kind of not a side hustle, just a hobby of mine, along with so many other things. So we're gonna do one song here. This is my daughter, one of my daughter's favorites. She requests it when I put her to bed sometimes. It's a song about zombies, a zombie dance party. So, bedtime music, clearly, that's what we're doing. But we're drinking on the third wine. This is Zweigelt, and not only because of the alliteration have I chosen a zombie song, but because it's a lot of fun. It's kind of juicy, it's groovy, it's not overly fussy, and it's just a beautiful kind of crunchy natural wine made with an Austrian grape called Zweigelt. So it's something that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Much like a guy sitting down in a suit playing an acoustic guitar, you probably wouldn't expect a zombie dance party song. But this is one that I think a lot of people like. Give it a little bit of grit here to it. Not that much grit. Okay. So without further ado, Zombie A Go-Go. Mortuary going bump in the night. Dead man got no soul. It's a party where you dance for your life. It's a zombie a go-go. No feeling up, baby. Don't you feel alive? The dropping dead 'cause you're oh so pretty. Hollowed out inside at the zombie a go-go. Yeah, well, you're digging with the feeling from your grave, the dirty fingernails and the fresh cut paint. Stop the heartbeat and kill all the pain at the zombie a go-go. No feeling up, baby. Don't you feel alive? You're dropping dead 'cause you're oh so pretty. Hollowed out inside at the zombie a go-go. I need y'all to make zombie noises here in a second. Now. That's it. Yeah, well, y'all creepy crawly creatures counting their trips. Got rats made across the disgusting lips. Their backs are broken so they sway with their hips at the zombie a go-go. No feeling Zombie, go, go. Zombie, go, go. Zombie, go. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm pretty sure that's my time. And enjoy your spike out. Don't hang out with too many zombies. They eat brains. Savor your brain. Be safe, and I will see you soon, hopefully at Bodega, if not just out in the crowd. Jim wants to say something.
No.
Jim wants to come up here and intimidate me.
You're going to do this again somewhere.
I am going to do this, thank you. On the 29th, I'm going to be doing it